reports to me on this project. And then we have CloudWorks, which is our implementation partner. They're our outside
Mm-hmm.
vendor. And then also our IT vendor that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of those people, so that 40 people in that project, that's above and beyond the other people that I manage.
All right, that makes sense. And in terms of the implementation, and again, this initiative, December would be the go live for North America. And do you have a timeline for the global implementation, or is it just going to be unrolled after the success of this go live?
Yeah, we're looking at Latin America going live in July of
All right.
2020.
So it's
And
kind of like
then,
a successive thing.
yeah, and then Africa will be about December of 2020.
Mm.
Africa is still questionable. We're we're not really what we're going to roll out there because obviously not all other countries need all the modules that we
Mm,
have, benefits and
makes sense.
things like that.
Mhm. So, Damon, you also mentioned that you managed data migration and process integration for a large joint venture with over
Hmm.
7,000 employees.
Hmm.
What is this initiative about? Is it a part of the IT establishment efforts that you are kind of overseeing at the moment? Is it something different?
No, yeah, it's all one thing. So
Hmm.
we merged with we acquired our competitor,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah.
we're merging. We've actually moved into their offices. So we
Mm.
planned a big move over a weekend, but uh, and we have um, and so what my group, since I'm HR operations, I have
Mm.
total rewards, that's benefits, compensation, talent acquisition, which is recruiting, and then
Mm.
all of HR data and HR
Mm.
processes and records. And so my job now was to take all of those teams from both companies and blend them together,
All right.
and
Mm-hmm.
also take all of the data from both companies and get them onto one system.
Mm.
And that was quite the feat. We're actually not finished with that. We're almost finished, but
Mm.
we're timing it to where everything goes live at the end of December. So
Mm.
with
And
the new system.
any particular, transitional challenges that you faced while kind of supporting this data migration, data integration,
Yeah,
or was
yeah.
it
I'm
just
still
seamless, the
yeah.
transition?
No, I'm still working with other leaders on this. We it can get very complicated, so I'm going to try to keep it high level. But we have we had to blend our benefits and our pensions,
Mm.
and they weren't the same. So both companies
Mm.
had different pensions, they had different benefits. Some things were the same, some things were different. So we had to make decisions as to what the new package was going to be, and getting
Mm.
all the leaders to agree and getting the
Mm.
unions to agree was uh,
Mm.
was a feat. I did not have to deal with the unions directly. We had someone else that did that, but I was still in the room. But we were coming up with those combined programs,
Mm.
and then just the one of the biggest challenges has been timing of payroll.
Mm.
Just which we have the schedule laid out now. We're just not there yet. It starts December 16th of when this group's last payroll will be this date, and their first check from this new company will be over here, and so it's and this check will be the last time you have benefits taken out,
Mm.
and then it'll start on your new check on this date. And so it was just building the timing architecture for payroll was a huge challenge, and
Mhm.
it's something that a bunch of us worked on. About three or four of us worked on for a long time, and then after coming up with those plans, how we're going to blend the data, how we're going to work the schedules for payroll. We had to sell all the leaders, outside of HR
Mm-hmm.
on these schedules, and they pushed back. Um, Especially when we were talking about payroll in Canada, where our headquarters was, that became uh, sensitive to some of our leaders there. And so, it took a lot of explaining to do with that.
All right.
And and then I'm
So how did you
also
secure then buy-in?
what was
Excuse
what was
me.
that?
I said, how did you secure their buy-in then?
It was just we we met with the leaders. We decided we were going to start communicating with leaders on a regular basis, and so this is something I learned at ConocoPhillips when we were
Mm-hmm.
implementing, was to have a weekly call-in. We don't
Mm-hmm.
do it weekly here. We opted for biweekly, but where you call in this number and we're presenting an update, and we're presenting the philosophies of why we're doing payroll this way, and and um, why we want to have this as the last payday from the former company,
Mm-hmm.
and we're able to explain it, and once they heard it repeatedly, then they begin to
They
see
were
that,
able
oh,
to
this
make
makes
sense.
total
Mm-hmm.
sense. It was, to us, it wasn't that no one it wasn't that the leaders didn't want to do any of this. It was just
Mm-hmm.
they didn't understand why we were doing some of the things we were doing. So
Mm-hmm.
in this case, not Bay State, it was a little different. I don't think they wanted to do what we wanted to try, but here it was more of they wanted to do it, and we could see that. But what I needed to
Mm-hmm.
do was communicate it enough that they understood. And once they understood, their fear went away. And
Went away.
so
Mm-hmm.
communication has been the big key here.
Mm-hmm. So, this was in terms of like payroll and in terms of other kind of more technical HR aspects. What about employee management? What about, because I'm sure that after an acquisition, the employees there, they have different expectations from you, right? They have had a
Mhm.
different employee management system. And then your employees, they do have a different employee management system. Everyone is expecting a change. So how do you see the change affecting all those from that perspective? Have you been have you worked on anything that's more leadership development, succession planning, or talent management related? Any new initiatives for that that you plan to incorporate in this one HR model?
Yeah, so here and I'm glad you brought that up, because if we're not careful, I sound more like an IT guy than an HR guy, and I'm truly an HR person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just dive into the technical, but
Mm-hmm.
because I fully understand the policies, and I fully understand the life cycle of an employee. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what we are doing is we have been developing some training materials that will that we've delivered some of them online already to one side of the company.
All
We
right.
cannot deliver them to the other side because they're not in our system yet, because
Okay.
it's not implemented. And
Makes
so that's
sense.
what, if you remember, I said just in time training. So
Mm. Yeah.
what we're what we're going to do is implement this online training right when we go live, so that the new employees that are coming into our company that we've acquired them, they'll
Mm.
be able to begin taking it right away. But
Mm.
until then, we have reached out through our HR business partners, and we are
Mm.
um, doing what I call awareness training,
Mm.
where we are taking some of the lower level management
Mm.
and doing some awareness training with them,
Okay.
about not only the system, but also just new policies, new
Mm.
new business guidelines, because their former company, followed one policy, and we're going to follow it
Another
slightly
policy,
different.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're doing some training. We also went through and we developed what we called supervisor training, and so
All
that
right.
was a part of that. So we went through and we retrained all of the supervisors from both companies that were being
Mm-hmm.
merged through
Mm-hmm.
the acquisition, so that they could be aware of these changes, and they could be aware of the new guidelines and the new policies, and would have some confidence going
Mm-hmm.
forward. And so
Right.
that's what we've implemented. We've already done that supervisor awareness training,
All right. And
and
how
that
many
will
people did you
help.
train?
I think it was around 800
All right. So,
managers, people managers.
so can we say, Damon, that you were able to build trust across different organizational levels through this, new proper structurized training system, while keeping in view the corporate culture and values of both companies?
Right. Yes.
All right. And any other cultural transformations that you kind of are overseeing or that you have done for this particular company?
Not yet. I mean, those are what we've
So
discussed
your
is pretty
focus is
much.
essentially to give them a one HR model, given the acquisition, given the new timing of it, and given the workforce constraints that you have right now in terms of
Yes.
engagement constraints. All
Right.
right. And
Yeah.
in the beginning, you mentioned that you were going to implement this system that had failed twice before, right? Why
Yeah.
did this system fail before, and how do you ensure that this is going to be sustainable
Hmm.
now? What's different, as in, what's
Yeah.
your strategy of
Yeah.
refurbishing or revitalizing this failed system?
Yeah. Now I want to reiterate the HR system. This is new. We've never tried to implement it before, but the
Okay.
HR service delivery model uh,
Mm.
was what they tried to set up before twice.
All
And
right.
what that means is that what that means is the HR service delivery model is it's something fairly new in the industry, where you,
All right.
instead of having all your various sites and locations do the HR transactions, like hire people, orient
Mm.
people, do their visas for immigration, or manage people's performance management documents, or their or terminate people, or transfer people, or promote people. Instead of having someone in HR at every location doing that, you build a strong group of administrators, and you do
Mm.
that at a central, or through a. It doesn't have to be centrally located, but it's one group. And
Mm.
so what that does is, instead of having 80 people do that, like at ConocoPhillips, instead of having 80 to 90 people do that, you bring it together in one organization, and you have 55 people do it for the whole organization. And so that's what they tried to do here. They tried to take a group of 10 people, to do the work that 30 people were doing. It didn't work. They didn't have the right people. They didn't have the right leader. They didn't have, um, the right technology in place. Just
Mm.
they were ahead of their time. I think it
Mm.
wasn't time. I don't know that
Mm.
they were doing much wrong,
Mm.
but when I came in, I was able to, because I've had experience doing it, I was able to organize the team. I was able to
Mm.
convince leaders that they can't do it with 10, that they need
Mm.
to do it with 20, and I
Mm.
was able to, and still have a savings, and so I was able to present that through my experience. So I
Mm.
just wanted to make sure that was clear, that setting what had failed was them trying to set up the service delivery model um,
Mm.
and it was failing before because they just weren't equipped. They didn't have the right resources to
And
do
the
it.
right direction, if
Yeah,
you would.
exactly.
All right,
Right.
all right. And since you
Hmm.
talked about the budget itself, the $20 million budget that you are kind of managing for this service
Hmm.
delivery department, um, any particular budget management challenges that you have faced so far, or in terms of any improvement that you have contributed to while allocating budgets, prioritizing budget, anything of that sort? Any
Hmm.
significant aspect that you would like to share?
Well, the so our chief HR officer asked me to manage the entire HR budget. So I have the
All right.
whole HR budget that I manage on his behalf, and
And
I think the key there that's really helped us
mm,
is that um, I meet monthly for a very short period of time. It might be 20 minutes, and we
mm,
review the budget with the other HR leaders, me and
mm,
me and my two colleagues or three
mm,
colleagues, and then every quarter we spend a little bit longer. And what we do is we focus on the whole picture. What I was able to talk the chief HR officer in was, instead of having four different budgets, let's have one HR budget that
mm,
we can all that will help us. In my opinion, it helps us to keep the big picture, and also be able to share our resources better. Um,
mm,
and so we've done that. Someone needed we needed another benefits administrator, but
mm,
because we had these joint conversations, I knew that one of our HR business partners was looking for something new to do, and we
mm,
felt like she would be a great fit. And it just so turned out that we had some decreases in employment out in that site, and so we didn't really need her there. And so,
mm,
in some companies, they might have just laid her off, while this other group is hiring someone. so, but we were
mm,
able to, preserve her job, but also reallocate a resource. And and in the long run, I think we maintained our budget uh, from
mm.
getting out of hand,
And what's the total
because
budget that you were managing, that you were given? Was it,
what's the total budget?
yeah, because the 20 million budget is for
Yeah,
the department, service delivery department, right?
no, 20 million's for all of HR. Yeah, our
All
HR
of
is pretty
HR, right?
small. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
All
it
right.
was. Yeah, it's combined. The two companies combined, it was going to be around 32 million. Um,
Mm.
but
And would you
but
be
through
managing
the
that? Like, would you be managing the
yeah,
combined
no, I've
one
already
as well?
taken it. Yeah,
All
I've already
right.
taken it
So,
over, and what we've been able to find these synergies, um,
mm,
and not and through some workforce reductions, and also you know uh, what am I trying to say? Not duplicating vendors to do
mm,
different things. We've moved vendors around, like our benefits vendors, because one, we had a vendor that had, well, here's a good example. We had a
mm,
vendor who was managing our wellness program, stay fit, stay healthy, go get your cholesterol checked and your blood pressure checked, all that. Come to find out, our vendor that managed our health insurance also could do that. And so, and then the two companies had three different vendors. So we've eliminated two, and we only have one vendor. I think we've gone from probably 18 vendors down to about 11. And doing that,
effectively.
and finding synergies with our staffing. Um,
Mm,
we didn't need to have two HR call centers. We went to one,
mm,
and we were able to get the budget from 32 million to about, I I think it's going to be closer to 21 million, but I turned in
Mm-hmm.
I think the budget I turned in was 20,400,000, I think, somewhere in there. So,
All right.
and then we were able to eliminate some uh, leaders. We had these 3 leadership programs. One of them really wasn't producing the fruit we needed, so we eliminated it. So,
Mm,
so just doing, just finding the right synergies across all the sites,
mm.
which
Prioritizing
I think,
delegation and
yeah,
using smart approaches. That makes
right,
sense.
yeah,
Given the budget aspect, you also mentioned a few bullets that I would like to discuss. So you mentioned that you made immediate changes to reduce the cost of administrating benefits by
hmm
500K within the first 90 days.
hmm
Were there any issues there that you faced in terms of like cost issues that were there lingering upon? And
yeah.
I mean, what changes did you make?
Well, what really helped was I hired a finance manager to be the benefits
Mm,
manager, and he
mm,
was he was really good at he's good at numbers, he's good at managing vendors, and he and I we made a list of our vendors, what they provided,
mm,
how much they cost, and we began to look for ways that we could blend, instead of having 3 vendors doing these 3 different things, maybe one vendor could do all 3.
all right.
And we saw where we made the first savings was we found